Hello and welcome into another episode of the Dig in Denver podcast for the people, by the people. I, Derek Bettis, will be your master of ceremonies for the evening. Thank you for joining us, folks, as the Denver Nuggets pull away another win, the 24th win of the season over the Portland Trailblazers, 104-101. Tonight was an exciting game with a lot of really cool storylines out there. Jamal Murray set a new career high. Definitely going to talk a little bit about that. And the Nuggets also debuted another new starting lineup for the year. This was the 18th starting lineup on the year, which featured Will Barton, Gary Harris, Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Mason Plumlee. A lineup that was actually pretty effective all game long. Had some collapses here and there. It was a little bit of rough scoring when Jamal went out in the third with 4 fouls. For the starting lineup, Barton led the way with a positive 11. Right after him was Mason Plumlee with a 10, who had a fantastic game. Nikola Jokic in a 9, and Harris and Murray tied for 7 in the plus-minus category, with Gary Harris leading the way in minutes per usual, followed closely by Will Barton, Harris, Murray, and then Plumlee at the end with 28 minutes. Wilson Chandler also did rack up 30 minutes played tonight. He ended with a negative 12, but actually had some really good moments during the game, and I would probably say one of his better games in the last few weeks for sure. He really was able to use his defense to get him going on the offensive end, attacked the board a couple times, had some really nice finishes against Davis, and just looked a lot better. Logan actually had proposed this question not too long ago. Actually, we were having a conversation, and he mentioned, what about moving Trey Lyles into the starting lineup? Obviously not what happened here, but Trey Lyles into the starting lineup and then putting Chandler down in the second unit. It's something where he excelled at last year, and maybe something that could happen again. And I actually didn't mind it at all. We had a long, healthy conversation about it, and I think Wilson Chandler may find it more lucrative for him to be coming off there. He has a lot in the second unit. He has this confidence about him, something that we haven't seen, the type of energy in the way that he played the game that I personally don't think I've seen from him almost all year long. He had those couple stretches of games a few months ago where he threw together some good games there, but since then really haven't seen a whole heck of a lot that would suggest that the type of energy, like I said, swagger and demeanor that he held with himself tonight on the floor, I think it suits him better coming off the bench. We'll talk a little bit about that. Trey Lyles also logged 24 minutes, racked up 9 points, 1 assist, and 6 rebounds there as well, on 3 for 7 for shooting, 2 blocks and 2 steals, so filled up the stat line there, ending with a negative 10, but like I said, contributed in a lot of other different ways that really helped out the team. So a couple of things that we're going to get into for sure there, but without further ado, let's dig in. Alrighty. So like I was talking about, tonight debuted the 18th starting lineup for the Nuggets on the year so far. Many of the players in the pre-show videos were actually kept talking about playing with a relaxed offense, something that coaches must have been preaching to the guys, because a lot of them repeated having a relaxed and made sure that the offense was flowing. They really focused on the cadence. It really seemed like they all had very similar sayings in what they were talking about and what they needed to do. They obviously understand and realize that this team's at its absolute best when the offense is free flowing and the ball is moving. This team is so lethal because of the plethora of different scores that the Nuggets have on this team, that when the ball's moving, everybody gets a lot of really good shots, wide open shots, which leads into some high efficiency buckets, points in transition, as well as points in the paint. Points in the paint tonight was definitely a sore spot for the Nuggies. Portland definitely led most of the game. I think in the third, Nuggets had cut it down and actually started attacking a little bit more. And there was definitely certain times throughout the game where the emphasis on attacking, especially led by Jamal Murray, predominantly led by Jamal Murray, really took emphasis. And you could tell when the game started getting closer together, because the points in the paint started looking a lot more similar, when they were washing instead of Portland dominating in that area. For the game, Portland ended with 42 points in the paint, dominated over the Nuggies with only 34 points, which is one of the Nuggies' specialties. So definitely something that I attributed a lot to the offensive rebounds. Portland tonight actually just got a ton of offensive rebounds as well. And I think that's what it leads a lot to it. Mason Plumlee was getting absolutely worked on the glass by Jusuf Nurkic. Not necessarily even being out-jumped. It's just getting poor position, not getting the box out, getting pushed underneath the basket, putting himself in a horrible position to rebound. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Nuggets were so focused on the cadence of the game. They really kept pushing the tempo, which had everybody a little bit gassed. Marlo and Hastings kept mentioning how everybody's faces were red because they were working. They were definitely pushing the ball, and Jamal Murray was definitely the spear point of that. Another focal point of tonight and to what made it such a close game, and it's surprising when you look at some of this stuff as well, is the turnovers once again. Not one of the strong points of this Nuggets team, obviously taking care of the ball. There's lots of sloppy possessions. I believe even Marlo or Hastings, one of them had mentioned about how it wasn't the prettiest game played, but definitely an exciting one there at the Pepsi Center tonight. A lot of high energy. Of course, you always have the storyline with Jusuf Nurkic. They went back and forth. He had himself a pretty decent game as well. In 26 minutes, he actually racked up 19 points, 1 assist and 12 rebounds, shot 7 for 13 from the field, had 3 blocks, 2 steals. So Jusuf always finds a way to have himself a pretty nice game playing against the Nuggets. Definitely something he likes. If you didn't catch some of the conversations that some of the media personnel were having with him, he was mentioning about how he actually liked playing for a team who wants him to be there. He's enjoying the year and yada yada on that. But you could definitely tell it's something where he marks on his calendar. He wants to stick it to him. Didn't have a great game last game, and Nikola Jokic was able to take advantage of that there. Just like tonight, another thing that Nikola focused on, and surprisingly, it was really nice to see him, was aggressive in the paint. He actually didn't shy away from rolling down into the paint, doing his post-up moves where he's the most lethal. His three-point shooting has been a little bit off. It's dipped this whole year. The whole Nuggets three-point shooting in general has dipped as of late, but certainly Nikola Jokic. And so it's really important for him to really focus on going down in the paint and making sure to punish the guys. His footwork is too supreme for bigger, slower guys, and he's too big and strong for the faster guys who can actually stay with his footwork, just like tonight with Aminu and everyone else as well. Collins, Davis, he took advantage everywhere he could. Although he wasn't able to finish a whole heck of a lot in the paint, he was able to get his shot off multiple different ways and still had himself a nice game. Nikola ended the night with 32 minutes, 16 points, 5 assists, 12 rebounds, shot 5 for 17 from the field, 1 block, 1 steal, 2 for 5 from the three-point line, 4 for 7 on free throw shooting, had 3 turnovers, and with that positive 9, like I had mentioned earlier, but missed just a ton of inside shots that normally he's going to make on any given night. And I'd rather see him much more aggressive down in the paint, missing those shots, than being passive and just sticking to outside shots. He did that a couple times tonight. And, they're open shots, and Nikola's going to get harped on whether he takes those or not. I've been critical of him for not taking those three-point shots, so he's good enough to take them. They're going to fall. He'll get back in his rhythm. However, it's important to see him down there in the paint taking advantage of his mismatches that he's going to create. So we're just going to break down a couple of the notes that I had throughout the game. Getting into the first here, I thought the motion was good early in the first. The ball was moving side to side, it was moving lateral in and out, a little bit sloppy. You have the first couple minutes of guys kind of getting to the pace and warming up and getting fluent out there with each other. But you definitely saw, I thought, some pretty good motion in the beginning. There were some defensive lapses, but I did like how we were being aggressive on the screens. They were definitely showing and then recovering nicely as well. There was a couple of key clutch defensive possessions towards the end of the game tonight that were beautiful execution on the defensive end. Guys were moving, flying, and recovering, which is the most important thing. After about the second option falls through and the help side defense normally gets exposed, the Nuggets fall apart. There's multiple times in tonight's game where the help side defense knew where they needed to be. On top of that, once they shot out to recover, even if they flew past the man, like I said, they were able to recover. The effort was there tonight, and that was really nice to see too. So early on, the Nuggets actually jumped out on a 10-2 lead against Portland, led by Jamal Murray with the first 5 points of the game. His offense was beautiful tonight. The shot was on, which is obviously one of his best features to what he has in his arsenal. But on top of that, his aggressiveness towards the rim. Once that kid starts moving north and south as well as east and west, he's popping and hitting his shots. The team's looking for him, and he's just in that rhythm where he's just in the unconscious mode, like they kept talking about. Unconscious mode. His shot is just fluent. Anytime he gets that shot even close to him within the 2 feet range, he's going to throw it up. And he has that swagger, and he's been making his shots, and he's warm. You can see that it's going in. It's a beautiful thing to watch this kid's shot at such a young age have such a confidence, such a swagger. His unwavering confidence in himself and in his game is what's going to propel him to be one of the Nuggets' most lethal offensive weapons. Tonight he went up against Damian Lillard, an all-star, and just performed absolutely beautiful. There's some people on Twitter mentioning about how he's taken the next step, and it's a high possibility. He's had a great couple strings of last games. He's had some great games this year so far, some multiple 30-point games, including tonight with 38, new career high, and things were just working for him early. He was being aggressive. He was accepting what came to him. He wasn't forcing anything, but definitely being aggressive. And when you can be aggressive without forcing it, where you can look at like a Will Barton, who sometimes is overly aggressive and forces it. Jamal Murray was not doing that at all time, and especially last year, but even in some games this year, we've seen Jamal do that where he tries to force the issue, does a little bit too much, and not often, but he has done that, and that was not the case tonight. And even if it was, he was making his shots, so who really cares? Portland then later on in the first went on an 8-0 run that ended up catching the game back up and got close. The Nuggets free flowing offense and stop, and really took about 4 bad shots in about the mid to end of the first. Not as aggressive. They were settling for the shots. They may not have been bad shots, but one was, like I said, from a Jokic. He was open, but it was early in the shot clock. I thought they definitely could have moved it around and possibly got something a little bit better. Or in that scenario when somebody's off him like that, if he takes a few steps in and has the options for, a Gary back cut or a dribble handoff, something that's going to be a lot more effective for Nikola. Anytime he's rolling to the rim as opposed to that outside shot, it's always going to be nice. Like I said, I've been critical of him for not taking those 3-point shots, so I'm not going to harp too much on that. However, there's just some shots as far as the aggressiveness definitely backed off a little bit. And so that really caused the offense to kind of ease up a little bit, to settle down. And tonight was definitely a game of runs, just as basketball normally is. But tonight especially true, and the Portland Trailblazers end up coming back to make it a closer game. Murray's offense, like I said, was on in the first. He was being aggressive and looking for his and knocking down the shots as well. And some good ones too. They weren't just wide open standalone threes. He was creating his shot, which is fun to see happen at such a young age. The fact that it's maturing and growing and getting better. I really like that Nikola went to what had worked last time early. Like I had talked about earlier, he wasn't able to finish a lot of shots in the paint. However, he did attack Aminu, who is just too small of a defender, right? So he attacked Aminu over and over and over again. And on any given night, that's going to allow Nikola to really propel the offense into another state. But I think because of the mismatches that he creates, it also allows somebody like Murray, who when he gets hot, he's going to be on, but it still allows him to take some pressure off of him when Nikola's being aggressive, regardless of if he's making his shots or not. He's an issue, and you can't just leave him alone, because if you do, he draws that gravity, and if you don't give him that respect, then you're going to pay for it in a plethora of different ways there. So, but I really liked that I saw Nikola going to the paint early and really taking advantage down low. Torrey Craig and Jamal Murray got in later in the first, and I really liked Craig's defense on Dame. He had those 2 really good stops actually, and one to end the end of the first. Just played some solid defense on it. Damian Lillard is one of the elite scorers in this league as far as his footwork, his ability to score, his ability to create shots, and his ability to get defenders just that half step on and take advantage of them. And I thought Torrey did a great job at keeping Dame in front of him and making sure to make his shots difficult. So really liked what I saw from Craig's defense in the first. Denver and Portland at the end of the first shot a very identical, the exact same, actually 6 for 21 for 28%. Denver already had 4 turnovers at that point. Denver had shot 3 for 8 for 37% from the 3. 2 of those were Murray. Had that shot working tonight. Denver was getting outscored in points in the paint tonight, 6-10. And that's really how the first quarter wrapped up. So not necessarily a masterful performance from the offensive end. However, there were some good things that the Nuggets were able to take from the beginning and starting strong that were able to replicate throughout the rest of the game that made them successful down the stretch. And ended up pulling out this win, which was a fantastic win after a rough stretch of games in January that were highly coveted as going to be some really important games because of the winnability of them. The Nuggets dropped a few. And so tonight was a very pivotal key point in the race. This is one of the games without riding the highs and the lows. Could be one of those games where the Nuggets have the ability to turn around. Now, that's not to go saying, oh, this is the time where the Nuggets really are going to turn around and they're going to come roaring back. They have the opportunity to make it this. Obviously, time is the only thing that will tell if that's true or not. So looking forward to see how they handle their next game coming up on Thursday against the Knicks and Kristaps Porzingis, who always gives the Nuggets a rough go. And really anybody, seeing that he's such an athletic elite scorer in this league. In the second quarter, Chandler actually comes off the bench, which I really like. Like I said, we talked about a little bit earlier. Played with just a ton of energy. He had two really nice blocks. One against Davis. That was just a monster stuff back. Met him up at the peak. Caught him coming down and just pushed it back right into the ground. And then another one against Connaughton as well. Pat, the little point guard from Notre Dame. He rode it all the way in coast to coast, timed it well, and definitely shut him down as well. And that's really what allowed Chandler to kind of make a good impression. He had that really nice little spin move against Davis, finish on the up and under. And so seeing Wilson Chandler get going, and if he can be productive off the bench for us, as we know, we've seen the bench struggle after the starters come out. We've seen some of those issues kind of play out later on during the game and come to bite us in the end. So if this is a sign to show, hopefully what could be with Chandler coming off the bench, I love it. I really think he could add a lot to that second unit. The play was definitely still very sloppy here. And at this time, Portland really made the Nuggets pay for their sloppiness in handling the ball. Off of the 10 turnovers, Portland actually converted that into 18 points. And we were only down at half by 3 points as well. So at the end of the first, Denver shot 16 for 41 from the field for a good 39%. Portland was at 17 for 40 at 42%. Denver had those 11 turnovers, which is it's not a lot of Denver's turnovers end up being off of really sloppy plays. Will Barton had that play tonight where he went to go dribble straight to the lane and the ball just like flew off him. Like he almost just kind of forgot he had the ball in his hand. It was a really silly one. And if the Nuggets can minimalize and cut out some of those really silly turnovers. Moutier had a Moutier turnover where he dove in, expected Trey Lyles to cut to the basket. Trey kind of sat back and Moutier just kind of threw it in midair, which, from a fundamental basis, I know these NBA players have the athletic ability, the speed and everything else to make those plays, but being caught up in the air is definitely going to get you in trouble more times than not. And I think that's definitely true, especially with Moutier. So if you can cut out those silly turnovers, just the real sloppy ones that don't make a lot of sense, that's going to be crucial for the Nuggets going down the stretch, especially if we can make it into the playoffs. From beyond the arc, Nuggets shot 6 for 16 for 37%. Portland was at 4 for 13 at 30%. Points in the paint, this is the time where Portland was really dominating as well. Had 22 points in the paint to Denver's 12. And even with that lack there, Jamal was still getting it going as well, and he was able to really keep Denver in this. The kid did all he could tonight to make sure that Denver stayed in this game. He was really the spirit animal of this game, if you will. Not in the fact of like somebody who's out there calling out plays and yelling at guys and hyping people up, really just in his style of play. There's a couple times, sure, where he had mentioned something, or it looked like he said something to Will Barton about, getting through. He definitely wanted the ball a couple times when they didn't get it to him, but it wasn't anything like a leadership standpoint, like a LeBron James out there, Phil General, if you will. It was more of just him playing his game, him playing in rhythm, and really his aggressiveness was key to tonight's win. In fact, the energy dipped every time he went out. When he came back in, his effort and his energy really lent a lot to this team and this win tonight as well. So definitely Jamal Murray was a nugget of the night, and his energy really, really, really mirrored this team and what they played like when he was out there and on. So at the halftime, Denver was down 45-49. And it was a good game. It was good to see that it was competitive, that we were still right there. I couldn't say at any point in this game that I was super, super nervous about it. In fact, I was very confident with seeing how the play was going and that the game was so close and so tight. I was very encouraged to see that the Nuggets were able to play like this with Damian Lillard in the game. Last time against Portland when the Nuggets had won, Dame was actually out with an injury. So it always scares me when the point guard, especially elite level point guard against the Nuggets, who Nuggets have struggled with that position, particularly when they're in and we're still able to play well and still able to be relevant and stay in games as well. That was pretty clutch. On tonight, Dame racked up 38 minutes, 25 points, 8 assists, 2 rebounds, shot 10 for 18 from the field. Just an animal. 4 for 8 from the 3-point line. He was 4 for 8 from the 3-point line. So dude's just an animal. Still got his buckets by all means, but didn't necessarily impact the game where like the Nuggets defense can let those elite level scoring point guards do sometimes in those matchups. So some of the highlights from the first half: Wilson Chandler just threw together one of his best games in the most recent weeks, coming off the bench. Kudos I give to Logan that he brought up that point months ago. Had 17 minutes. He had 4 points, 3 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 1 steal at that point. So he was definitely affecting the game in a lot of different areas. The good cadence. There's a really good cadence to the Nuggets offense tonight, especially after that half. There's just a good flow. Like I said, lots of lateral motion in and out, cutting. There's just a good cadence to the team. The ball wasn't necessarily flying all over the place, but there's just a real solid, consistent, like I said, the cadence is just the best way to describe it. And so that was really nice to see. Jamal was at a great pace and was controlling the pace predominantly for most of the game. And then Dame had went on a little tear at the end, 8 straight shots in a row. Like I said, the dude's a monster. He's just a walking scoring machine. So he's going to get his. Sometimes you just got to do your best when they do go on those streaks to kind of hold your own and make sure you're not giving them too much with the turnovers, making sure you're playing your game. And predominantly with the Nuggets, making sure that we're staying aggressive. If that's how we're staying in this game and that's what's winning, it's great when the Nuggets are hitting outside shots, especially Jamal Murray and Jokic. Harris got hot a little bit later on during the game, but this team just needs to focus on getting theirs inside the paint, making sure the points in the paint is something, one of the games that we always win. I think more oftentimes than not, when the Nuggets can do that, this team will be successful. Moving on to the third, Jamal Murray definitely continued to push the pace. He was involved with 6 of the 8 points right in the first minute and a half. Just right off the get-go, he had the really nice little up to Plumlee right over Nurkic, which was a really nice play, got everybody kind of worked up and going. And it was in the third predominantly when Plumlee was actually getting worked by Nurkic down low. I think that's when the fatigue started to settle in a little bit with Plumlee. And like I said, he was just finding himself out of position to really getting rebounds, and Nurkic was taking full advantage of that. Jamal went out in the third with 4 fouls. He had 11 points in the third. So did Nurkic. Like I said, Nurkic always going to put together a nice little game. But he went out with 4 fouls, and you could really tell the offense lulled a little bit. It definitely slowed up once again as soon as Murray went out. And that's what I was saying. This game really allotted to Jamal's energy on the court when he was out there. It's just a different team. But before he had went out there, Jamal Murray did a great job for such a young point guard like I was talking about. It's really great to see the mental maturity, the aggressiveness on the offensive end. But the other thing as well is that he was able to execute the game plan. And that was to push the pace of the game and make sure that they were going. And every time he was getting out in transition, found himself either getting open down low in transition or kicking out for great threes on other drives. So he just did an excellent job at handling the game execution and executing it properly like they had talked about at halftime. Also, this is where Jokic claimed his 17th season double-double on the year. So it was great to see him working. Even though he wasn't as efficient as he can be down low, he was still definitely working the game and affecting it in ways that only Jokic can do. Ali Sturm had made a comment about Coach talking to the guys about finishing off the last 2 minutes strong. I'd say in the previous 2 quarters, something they didn't necessarily do But if I had to give it a grade, I'd say a C+. Definitely could have been a B if they had finished at the free throw line. Harris missed 2 free throws, Plumlee missed 1, and Moutier missed 1 as well, which is actually something that I was actually worried about, that it may come back to bite us. I mean, it was only a 3-point game, and so it definitely could have. There's definitely a stretch where the Nuggets started struggling from the free throw line. Everybody's missing one here and there, and it was really adding up. Towards the end, the Nuggets were definitely a little bit more clutch, and we'll get into that as well. But for the game, they ended at 78%, 26 for 33. So, like I said, finished strong, which definitely brought that back up. But there's a little stretch there for a while in the third and a little bit in the fourth as well, where just the free throws were just a struggle. The struggle was real there. So glad that didn't come back to bite us in the butt. Definitely could have with such a close game like it was. In the fourth, once again, the free throws. That's the thing that just kept sticking out to me in this little spree. The mid third, end of third, and then early into the fourth really stuck out to me was the free throws. Right away in the first minute 50, there was 2 missed free throws in the first. It was great to see that the Nuggets were getting to the free throw line. That's a testament to the aggressiveness that the Nuggets were playing with tonight. And so it's great to see them at the free throw line, but we got to convert those and finish that. And in the beginning, this was probably the Nuggets' most competitive point when it was points in the paint. It was pretty close at that point. And any time that the Nuggets could get it close to washing out against Portland, that's when the game started to change. The energy would catch back up a little bit, and they'd cut down any lead that the Portland Trailblazers had. So. And that's really important. You actually saw once Denver started settling for some outside shots, they fell in love with the outside shot again. Portland was giving it to them predominantly for some lazy defense, but they were also giving them the shots as well. Nuggets weren't hitting amazing tonight, so they fell in love with it, got away from the aggressiveness, and Portland really took advantage of that. They actually ended up getting a little bit of separation there, went up 8 points. And there's a little point there when we got that 8th point when I almost got a little bit worried. Will the collapse that we've seen multiple times this season happen now, where lulled offense coming out of just some lazy play, as well as the other team getting hot, and defensive lapses as well. So I was glad to see that. That's not the case, and Denver was able to pull it out again. And it was about the 5-minute mark in this quarter where Denver really started to attack. They kept going to it. Joe was struggling to finish down low again, but he just kept going down, no matter who it was on him. He kept going down to the paint, and that was super important. Nuggets actually in this time ended with like a nice little 11-3 run in the last 4 minutes, which really closed the gap there and made it possible. And then Damian, missed that free throw right at the end. The 5th best free throw shooter in the league really left the door open for us to make a shot. And the Nuggets really did everything they could to almost lose this game. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 offensive rebounds that they just would not grab. And I can't tell you how frustrated I'm over here yelling at the screen just to grab a rebound. It was just absurd. Had that last minute play where Plumlee actually got his forearm, we'll say, on the ball. Ball went out on Lillard, and the refs reviewed it. So kudos to the refs on that one. That was a clutch call that really made it possible. And then Barton actually came through clutch in the end. He was god awful tonight from the field. I'm pretty sure he went 0 for. Let's take a look here. He ended with 7 points, 2 assists, 8 rebounds. He was 0 for 7 from the field tonight. Just could not buy a bucket, but he was the savior towards the end. We kept getting the ball into him, and he kept icing his free throws. And so, he came in clutch. It was around, I believe, the third where Malone actually subbed out Chandler for Barton. And I believe at that time, Marlo made a comment about, you kind of hope that even though he's been cold tonight, Barton is one of those shooters who can, get a flurry of buckets and really string something together nicely, even though he's been ice cold like that. And though it's not anything that he did on the scoring end, he definitely iced it for us with the free throws, and that made all the difference towards the end. The Nuggets actually made the last 10 free throws of the game after a rough free throw shooting stint into the third. So that, like I said, it was super clutch towards the end, only a 3-point game, and that's going to be it. Jamal also had that really nice finish, flexed them all on the ground, and the kid was just an animal tonight. He did everything he could to keep this game in there, and to see such one of the youngest men on this team, play with that type of intensity. Just great things to come from him. So great to see him stepping up and really carrying this team in a tough game and a crucial win for sure. So big congratulations to Jamal Murray with those 38 points, 14 for 19 from the field, 4 for 6 from the 3-point line, 6 for 6 from the free throw line, and 6 assists as well. Nuggets snapped a 3-game losing streak, good for the 24th win of the season. So there you go, folks. Keep it nice and clean and simple. Just a little recap, some of the things that we had seen during the game. The Nuggets have some winnable games coming up, and to finish strong in this month would mean all the world of difference. A lot of the Nuggets fans have been riding the highs and lows, getting really super low on the losses. When you have something really frustrating like the Phoenix loss. That loss was comical to me when such a good team loses to such a bad team in that fashion. And at some points, Nuggets were just getting absolutely worked. It's good to see them bounce back and play a game like tonight. But things have to get more consistent for this team. There's definitely a lot of nervous energy out there in the Twitter sphere, the Nuggets sphere in general about this team and where they're headed. Definitely looking forward to getting Paul Millsap back and getting some more offensive potency as well. So coming up, the Nuggets play the New York Knicks on Thursday, Dallas on Saturday, Boston, and then the Spurs next week. So these next 3 games, including this Portland game, just super important to finish out strong because that Boston game is going to be a heck of a showdown that I'll be at actually as well. And then the San Antonio game is away on a back-to-back for the 4th back-to-back of this January stint. And then it gets absolutely brutal in March, I believe. I think we have 4 home games in March. February isn't looking too bad. We have only 3 away games in March. How this team finishes out is going to be crucial. This rough stretch of games very well could come back to put the Nuggets in a predicament where we're fighting towards the very end, scrapping every single game, and every game is going to be important. So, the Nuggets were highly criticized during the Phoenix games that they came out, especially Malone. He was very publicly open about his criticism on his team for coming out and acting like it was just a game that they were going to win regardless. And so it's really important that this Nuggets team, this young Nuggets team, hopefully some of the veteran leaders stand up, as well as just some of the crucial scorers, and really start to lead this team, because every game is about to be detrimental to this season going from here on forth. So definitely a good start on tonight. Nuggets do win at 104-101. So congratulations. Let's go Nuggies. Definitely plan on doing something on Sunday, so keep your eye out for that. May do something on Friday or Thursday as well for the Knicks game as well if we can. So keep your eyes out. Keep it posted. Make sure to go on over to Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at @DiggingDenver. Make sure to go follow our Instagram to see some interesting, great Nuggets content there. And make sure you find your way on over to the Dig in Denver website where you see our post games, our articles, and anything else that we put out there about the Nuggets. So make sure to go follow us on those platforms. Make sure to go follow me at Derek. If you have any questions for me, holler at me. We always do giveaways. We're giving away free tickets to the games. We have a couple more coming up. So the only way you'll be able to win is if you're following us on those platforms. So guys, for tonight, I do appreciate you guys joining on in. Make sure to go make it on over to iTunes. Leave a rating and review. iTunes does place a heavy amount on the consistency and the amount of ratings that we're getting for this show. So give me some feedback. Drop me a little love in there. Drop me a little hate as well. I'm a big boy. I can take it. Either way, just make sure to find your way on over there. Give us a rating and review. We really do appreciate it. And we will catch you guys all next time on the next episode of the Dig in Denver podcast. Let's dig in.